If you're watching this video, it means the world you knew is cracking at the seams. She's gone. And with her gone is the light that once filled your life. You're trapped, cornered by your own fears and the questions that swarm in your head like shadows in the dirty streets. I'll tell you what's going on and why she left you. Nocturne's Journal, August 29th, 2024. In the beginning, things were different. You were both at the peak, this peak where every look and touch was full of love. It was a moment when your journey together was just beginning, but then with each step you were sinking more and more into the routine, into the daily chores, and she got bored. Yes, bored. Every day you became more and more predictable to her, like a book she'd read 100 times. Not because you got worse, not because you did anything wrong, but simply because her dopamine levels, that emotional narcosis she felt around you, it started to decrease. You see, a relationship isn't something permanent. It's a game of brain chemistry. When she has a new stimulus, a new you, a new path, her dopamine takes off like a downed beast. But the beast needs a constant challenge, and you've become too accessible, too predictable. She no longer sees you as the man who once made her heart race. It's not your fault, just like it's not the night's fault that it turns to day. It's just the nature of things. You ask, why does this happen? The answer is simple. Human nature is such that a woman, like any other person, seeks new emotions, new challenges. It's her nature. You were a labyrinth for her, but she's already found all the exits. She got cramped, she got bored. So what does she do? She starts looking for a new maze to overwhelm her senses. Think of the first fights. They come like a storm, like a torrential downpour. At first you don't pay much attention to it. You think it's just temporary. But the clouds thicken and you realize something is wrong. She starts getting distant, angry, looking for reasons to yell at you. And so you're left alone at this crossroads, and she's gone the other way. When she throws a scandal, realize it's not your fault. It's just her trying to find an excuse to leave. She herself doesn't know what's happening to her, but she needs to explain to herself why she no longer feels what once bonded you. Her emotions have dried up like a river in a drought, and you can't fill her up again. What can you do? Nothing, at least nothing that you normally try to do. A man who starts apologizing, who starts trying to win her back in the usual ways, trying to prove his feelings, thereby only falls deeper into the abyss. She sees your attempts and is only convinced she's doing the right thing. She needs another challenge, another maze that will get her heart beating again. You try to explain, to find a way out, to put things back the way they were, but it's no use. A woman doesn't look for solutions, she looks for excuses. And if she leaves, it means that her desires no longer coincide with yours. Psychologists tell her, leave, find a new relationship. But you and I know that the new fire will also go out and everything will happen again. When her feelings go down, the girl, as a rule, gives you a chance to bring back dopamine surges in her, to awaken some emotions in her through conflict, tries to unknowingly provoke you. But when it comes to conflict, there's no need for any hysterical screaming on your part. It's pointless. A man who gets into a verbal battle with a woman has already brought himself to his knees in front of her. It's a loss from the start. In this world, weakness is a one-way ticket, and it's always paid for in full. Imagine her walking around with a scowl on her face, irritation pulsing through her veins like a poisonous snake ready to bite at any moment. Suddenly she raises her voice, explaining something fiercely. What to do? Go into the shadows, like a ghost. Do not take the initiative in words or actions. Coldness and indifference are your tools. She'll feel the cold soon enough. She'll ask what's going on. She'll sense your distance. Answer her with indifference, that everything is fine. If it's the beginning of a relationship and you haven't given up your position completely, that will be enough for her to realize the mistake and go for reconciliation. If she is more emotionally dependent, then her thirst for dopamine will only increase. The pendulum has swung, and it needs more to stay in motion. In some cases, we will have to walk away for a while, disengage, pull ourselves out of this dark cycle. Yes, it's hard, but it's inevitable. It's especially hard if there are kids, but we'll talk about scenarios where there are kids in other videos. Most importantly, it has to be your move, your initiative. Just offer to live apart. Tell her you think it's the only right thing to do. In a few days, she may start writing to you. Her heart will rekindle the faded emotions. But take your time. If she wants to meet, say, "Not today. I have things to do. Maybe this weekend." And on the weekend, again refuse to meet. Let her realize that control is no longer in her hands. Eventually, this will lead to her craving your attention more than ever. But remember, no half measures will work anymore. This world is too cruel for compromise. When a woman first says she needs to think about it, says she wants to stay friends, or suggests you take a break, it's not a call to negotiate. It's a signal that she's ready to destroy everything you've been bonding over, even though she may not realize it yet. It's simple. She either wants to be with you or she doesn't. And there's no in between. There are no time pauses. There are no excuses. You're either everything to her or nothing. And if she says she needs to think about it, then you're already lost to her. There's only black and white in this world. Gray shades are for those who are afraid to face the truth. The woman says she needs time to think. She's dragging this moment out, delaying the inevitable, as if she's trying to hold off the last few minutes before it all comes crashing down. You may not see it, but her answer has long been no, and yet she doesn't leave instantly. Have you ever wondered why? Why she doesn't break up with you immediately, but slowly lets you go as if giving you false hope? It's all about biological programs. A man who decides to leave leaves, burns his bridges, and moves on. A woman, on the other hand, lingers, procrastinates, tries to think. Why? Because for her, it has always been about survival. It's in her nature to value the resource of someone who has proven their loyalty. And if you've tried to fight for the relationship, proved your love, she sees you as a value, some kind of resource. But times have changed. We no longer live under constant threat, no longer run away from wild animals, no longer defend our lands from hostile tribes. Other things are important to her now. Her choices are driven by her search for dopamine, by the feelings she wants to experience. She chooses you because you give her that pleasure, that temporary euphoria. But that fire always dies down, sooner or later. And so she starts to doubt, to feel it's not going to lead to something long-term. So she stalls for time, building up more and more confidence to put a final stop to it. You might ask, is it possible to affect her hormonal status now? Get that dopamine back up. Bring back those feelings she had in the beginning. Is that possible? Yes, it's possible. But there's one thing you have to realize. Before leaving, a woman accumulates inside herself all that conviction that the relationship is dead, that there is no future. She immerses herself in that negativity, reinforces it in herself so that she won't regret it later, so that she won't be tempted to come back. Anything you could have done to keep her was important then, but not now. When her dopamine dries up, she starts to see you as a source of irritation. Every move you make, every look you give her starts to make her angry. Your face becomes a trigger for her inner discontent, and everything that once bonded you begins to fall apart. We are as dependent on our biochemistry as prisoners are on their chains. Now let's break down the situation when the girl has already left you and her feelings have cooled down. Now that you are all alone, the only thing that can help you is an emotional blackout and completely ignoring any attempt by her to contact you. Men often think that if they show her how much they love her, it'll change everything. In fact, you need to do the opposite. Complete emotional blackout. For the first while, after she leaves, she won't even think of you, will only see you as an obstacle to a better life. For the first 3 months at least, there will be no change. If you withstand this period without stupid mistakes, gradually pass the negativity that she has accumulated, there will come a point when she will believe that you are behind her, and that will be the first step to her remembering. The key idea you need to understand is that women don't need to be loved. They need to be the ones doing the loving. And those are two completely different things. They're not related. At first she'll be indifferent to you, and then one day she has a turning point. A flash of memories, a surge of emotions, and she will start monitoring you in social networks, asking common acquaintances. A little later, provocations, anger, attempts to cause your reaction through social networks, blocking, return of supposedly very important for her things that remained with you may begin. This will happen in a month or two, probably longer. Only after that will she start to repent and question her own decision. But until then, there will be silence. You'll be sitting on pins and needles, obsessed with wanting to do something to get her back. The adrenaline will drive you forward. The desire to hear her voice will break you. It's torture, but there's nothing you can do. Months will pass and you will wait, not knowing how much longer it will last. But you have to realize that you're doing the right thing. And if you endure, if you don't break, the day will come when she'll realize that you're still important. But not until she's been through her own hell that she's created for herself. Many men mistakenly believe that if a woman says she's never coming back, it means her decision is final. But this is far from the truth. These words are nothing more than a screen behind which she hides her doubts and insecurities, because dopamine is starting to gain strength again. When she takes the initiative, says she misses you, asks to meet you, this is the moment when you need to show maximum restraint. You don't have to meet her right away. If you even slightly give in, give in. Answer, her confidence in the fact that she can control the situation will only increase, and all your work to restore the relationship will be in vain. Remember, an emotional blackout is complete ignoring. Even if she wants to meet, it can only be a test of your strength. So in such moments, it's important to keep a cool head and not let yourself get sucked into her game. When she is really ready to get back together, it will happen gradually. This process is more like a slow climb to the top than an instant decision. You'll sense when she starts to realize that she's worse off without you than she is with you. This will show up in her sincere attempts to make things right, in her apologies, in words that come from the heart rather than a desire to manipulate. But before that happens, you have to deal with your own demons. Your job now is to focus on yourself, on your physical and mental state. Find ways to release tension, such as through physical activity. Regular exercise and physical activity will help you deal with your inner anxiety. Forbid yourself from thinking about her. Don't follow her life. Don't reread past dialogues. Don't listen to sad music. All of these things make you vulnerable to your emotions. If you dwell on them, those thoughts will only intensify and consume you. This is the key to keeping your sanity. Ultimately, your primary goal is to keep yourself in this challenging period, to keep your strength and dignity. Everything else is secondary. It is important for you to realize one more thing right now. Your mind in its current state is your main enemy. It pushes you to decisions that lead to a dead end, makes you cling to illusions. There have been cases when women hesitate. They want to leave or stay. The man sharply turns on the emotional blackout, and a week later she already says, "I'm sorry, I love." But such stories always end the same way. Ardent reconciliation turns into new quarrels and even more pain. Emotional blackout for a week, this is not a solution. If you have realized that distance is necessary, prepare for a long struggle. There are no quick fixes. It will take time for her perception to change, for negative emotions to fade into the background and positive memories to begin to surface in her mind. It is the emotional blackout that gives the girl's feelings a chance to revive, but on a new basis. This begs the question, do I read incoming messages from her during an emotional blackout? The answer is simple, no. Emotional blackout implies a complete lack of contact, no reaction, even to general questions. It is important to decide in advance all possible moments, such as the return of her things and other things, so that there is no reason to communicate. Discard all illusions and stop romanticizing. This is not a melodrama with a happy ending. There is no room for naive hopes that everything will go back to the way it was. You have to be clear, your old relationship is over. They're dead, and going back to them is like trying to resurrect the dead. You're in a high-stakes game where it's all or nothing. Either you come out of this crisis stronger, or you lose yourself. Halfway solutions don't work here. Have you ever wondered why so many women leave relationships? The reason is simple. To break the connection with you, she had to accumulate so much negativity inside that you became a symbol for her of all her problems. She starts to see you through a prism of annoyance and looks for the opposite, someone who can compensate for your shortcomings. If you were soft and caring, she'll choose someone tougher and more confident. If you were romantic, she'll want someone cold and independent. These new relationships often fail because they are built on illusions, on trying to escape reality. That's why so many women end up coming back. They leave full of unreasonable expectations, thinking they will find something better. But the disappointment comes when that doesn't happen. It doesn't always have to do with another man. Sometimes a woman leaves believing that her life will improve without you. But as months go by and the negativity fades into the background, she starts to feel empty. And then, after a few months, she may realize that she misses what you had between you. She remembers the good times and realizes that now they are missing. An emotional blackout creates a sense of incompleteness. When she leaves but gets no response from you, it leaves a void that she can't fill. That incompleteness starts to eat her up from the inside out, especially if her life isn't as cloudless as she had hoped. It creates the very incompleteness that leaves questions unanswered, and it draws a woman back, making her come back to the thought of you. Paradoxically, it's the only thing that works. Even if her life is going up, even if she has a new man or is successful in her career, sooner or later there will come a point when that upswing will turn into a downswing. And then she will remember you, what once was between you. She will always have this unfinished gestalt in her mind about you. If you really want to get out of this darkness, out of this story, you have to realize that there are no accidents in life. The fact that she's gone is not an accident, and it's not just a coincidence. You should not treat your life as a chain of random events. Every life crisis is a signal, a sign that something in your life needs to change. It is an indication that you are making a mistake, that you are missing something. And it's only when you start to figure it out, when you really change, that everything else stops mattering. If your only thought right now is how to get her back, how to get back together, that's just a sign of your addiction. Just because you've been together for a few years doesn't mean your relationship was healthy or right. Perhaps everything that has happened now is a natural and logical ending to what was meant to happen. Until you've gone through an inner transformation, you may think that everyone is different, that every relationship case is unique. But the bottom line is that the decisions a woman makes and the way you handle an emotional blackout obey certain laws. In fact, emotional blackout isn't just about waiting in silence. It's a journey to true inner change. It's a battle with yourself, with your addiction to your emotions. In this moment, you're not just sitting idly by. You're actively working on yourself, tempering your will, overcoming your weaknesses. This path leads to the liberation from illusions, and only after passing it, you will be able to truly change your life. You must realize that not every woman you can build a healthy relationship with. This is very important to realize. In conclusion, remember how you made promises to each other, made plans, dreamed about the future. You considered her your closest person. You shared your most intimate things with each other, and maybe even discussed names for future children. These moments, filled with romance, seemed to last forever. But then, without warning, she cut you out of her life as if you were just a draft. Think about it. Do you really want to reconnect with someone who turned out to be a traitor? When the moment of truth comes, you'll have to decide whether to give her another chance or to leave her in the past.